Hi everyone and welcome to another part of the Django tutorials. This is the second course of Django, and in this course we're going to first get started with the template tags, DTL, front-end language in Django, and then also we're going to get started with some of the useful projects that makes you familiar with so many tools in Django. We're also going to become familiar with different kinds of databases, SQL, MySQL, PostgreSQL, MongoDB, and other kinds of databases. So you're going to learn a lot amongst the projects that we're going to have. So in the very first video, we're going to get started with the template tags, become familiar with them. Notice that we've learned this in the first Django course. We've used them as well, but here we're going to take a look deeply what they are, how they are written, and how we can use them in order to write the front end of our Django project. Notice that you don't have to learn these template tags, and you can write your Python codes in API and then use frameworks such as Vue.js, React, or Angular in order to somehow communicate with your Django project. But it is also recommended that you learn this programming language in order to become familiar with how to create a Django project without ever needing to write API and write kind of a full stack Django project. Anyway, let's get started with the template tags, and notice that there is another name for these template tags, and that is, some people say DTL or Django template language. But the template tags are the kinds of tags that we use in the DTL. So it is really recommended here that you learn these template tags, because sometimes your project is small, you want to create a very small website, or a kind of website that does not have so many details, or one person is going to handle the back end and the front end. So in this way, it is highly recommended that you use this DTL language. I've used this. This is a kind of tool that makes your project much easier without ever needing to learn the front-end frameworks or even JavaScript. So here I'm going to introduce some of the most famous template tags. I'm not going to introduce them to you in this video, but you can learn them by heading over to docs.djangoproject.com. I will also give a link in the description so that you can head over to here and learn from scratch everything that you want to learn. But here, what I'm going to do is to introduce some of the most famous ones. So the first one that I'm going to introduce here is the for loop. So let me head over to the for loop here, because this is the most important one. You've used this in the Django 1 tutorial or course a lot. So for those of you who haven't seen those videos, here you can learn about the template tags using Django template tag. And notice that the for loop here is a little bit different with the kind of for loop we have in Python. So here we do not use for I in range number. Here we use an array, for example, some kind of list that we have, and then we use a variable to be considered instead of this list. So then we will loop through this list and use this O variable. Here we do not have that O here, but somewhere inside of this tr tag, notice that that is being used, and you can use it, and that's the goal of using for loop, right? So also notice that you need to end the loop with end for, right? If you don't end it like this, then you will face an error. So opposite to Python, that we use indentation to determine where the for loop is going to end, here we need to have the for loop. Anyway, so this is very useful at times that in your front-end template, where you want to, for example, have a row of information, a table, or a number of products that you don't know how many they are, but you want to know this, you want to determine this by the list of information that you have. So for example, you have a list of products, so you want to show them on the search result page of the website, and then use this for loop in order to show them. Or you have a list of For example, the classmates. So remember we had the classmates project in our last Django tutorials. So in there we had a table of the row of information related to each student. So at first it wasn't determined how many students we have, but as the students registered into our website, then we would enter them as a new student. Then in the main page that would show the list of the students, we would see that there is a kind of a dynamic table that would be updated according to the list of the student. So that dynamic table is written with for loop, if you can remember from our previous course. So that's the way for loop is going to play a very important role in your front-end code, especially if you're using the tr and td tags for the tables. So here most of the examples are with the tr tags, but you can use it for so many different purposes. So I'm not, as I told you, I'm not going to explain all of these listed parts in the Django template language, but we're going to mention some of the most important ones, some of the most handy ones in this video. So the next one is CSRF token. So CSRF is a kind of a tag, and we use this especially in the forms. So when you want to have a form in your template and you want to get some kind of data from the user, you generally use CSRF token. And the way to use it is very easy. You can use the CSRF token written in there, and it will do the job for you on your behalf. So cross-site request forgery is the kind of attack that exists. So in order to prevent it, you can just go ahead and read this documentation, see how the attack is, and on the documentation of Django it's been explained and how to prevent it and how to write it inside of your form. So what I'm not gonna go through all the details of the forms here because this has been explained inside of this template, but the way to prevent it is to use this CSRF token code that we have used in our previous course. Don't worry if you're confused a little bit. I'm just going to I've just had this goal to introduce you about this CSRF token code, and then notice that we're going to use this a lot. We've used this also a lot in the first Django course. Next up we have the if tag. So if tag here is pretty much the same as what we have in Python, with the difference that we have the end if at the end. Notice that it's always written inside of these brackets in percent and ends of it like that. So the way we use it is so much like what we use in Python, but we don't have colon at the end of the line, and we can use the operators such as the Boolean operators and also and not and things like that, or equal to or not equal to, smaller than, greater than, or smaller than equal, greater than equal, and so on. And also there is this in operator that we also use in Python. So you want to make sure if something exists in a list, so some kind of item exists instead of a list. So if the result is true, then you will enter in this if loop. If not, then you will skip it. So this is another operator. So most of the things are just like Python. We have is operator for checking if something is true or false. So this is for the Boolean variables, and also is not is another variable, which is the opposite of is, and things like that. So we also have something called filter, and it's a little bit different from what we had in Python, or you may not have faced it on Python. So here we have, it says that you can also use filters in if expression. For example, if message with a kind of condition. So it's this filter is a kind of condition. So if the message length is greater than 100, then so you will see that you have a lot of message. So this is a kind of a condition instead of a condition. So if we have a message that which length is greater than 100, then this. So it's kind of a filter, and you can write it this way by using a column. So actually pillar. So here we have also complex expressions. Sorry, this is actually pipe. Yeah, this is not pillar, this is pipe. So we have the complex expressions such as things like this. So this is a combination of these operators equal to or. We have another equal to in the and the combination of all this can also be used in if statement. So these are important. You are familiar with most of them in Python, but I need to mention this because somehow the template tags are a bit different. So we're going to get familiar with these template tags just quickly as we can, and you're going to make familiar with most of this instead of the projects, and you have become familiar with if you have watched our first Django tutorials. Anyway, so next up we have if change. I'm going to explain about this part in the next video, so that because time is up for this video, but notice that there are a lot of other template tags that we need to explain in the next part. So in the next video, hopefully we'll finish all the important ones, and then you're ready to get started with the front-end template tags in Django. So until the next video, goodbye.